The sun was sinking low over Dust Valley, painting the horizon in crimson and gold. The air smelled of dry sage and old regrets. A lone rider appeared in the distance, cutting through the rising dust like a ghost. His name was Rhett Callahan, the wealthiest rancher in 3 counties, a man feared as much as he was admired. Folks whispered that his boots had walked across more hearts than the Texas plains, and that his eyes, cold and gray, could make a man confess his sins. But today, Rhett wasn't riding for cattle or gold or power. He was riding to collect a debt, one owed by an old farmer named Samuel Walker, who had borrowed money to keep his ranch alive, and failed. Inside a creaking farmhouse at the edge of the valley, Lila Walker sat by the window, watching the storm of dust draw near. Her fingers trembled against the worn wood of the sill. She knew who was coming. She'd heard stories, how Rhett Callahan's word was law, how he never forgave a debt, and how mercy was something he'd buried long ago with his first wife. Lila's father lay sick in the next room, coughing weakly, whispering prayers he wasn't sure anyone could hear anymore. When the knock came, it wasn't loud, just firm, steady, final. Lila opened the door, and there he stood, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a black duster that shimmered with trail dust. His eyes met hers, and for a moment the world seemed to stop breathing. She wasn't what he expected. The farmer's daughter was no meek country girl. There was defiance in her gaze, pride in the way she lifted her chin even as fear flickered beneath her lashes. "Evenin', Miss Walker," he said, his voice deep, slow like thunder rolling over the hills. "I reckon you know why I'm here." She swallowed hard. "You've come for my father's debt?" "I've come for what's owed," he replied, glancing past her into the dim room. "But from the look of things, there ain't much left to take." She stiffened. "We have our pride." He almost smiled, but it never reached his eyes. "Pride don't keep the wolves from the door." Her father stirred and called her name weakly. Rhett stepped inside, his boots echoing across the wooden floor. Samuel tried to rise, but Lila rushed to his side. The old man's face was pale, his breath ragged. "Mr. Callahan," he rasped, "I swear I'll pay you back. Just give me time." "You had time," Rhett interrupted softly. 2 years of it. Samuel's hand trembled as he pointed toward a stack of weathered papers. Deeds, IOUs, hopeless promises. "The drought ruined the crops. My wife's illness took what little we had. I meant to—" Rhett raised a hand, silencing him. His gaze shifted to Lila. "What's your plan now, Miss Walker? Sell your land? You'll get half what it's worth, if that." Lila stood, her heart pounding. "We'll find a way." Rhett stepped closer, studying her. "You're brave, foolish, but brave." Then, after a long pause, he said the words that would change her life forever. "Come with me." She blinked. "What?" "You heard me," he said, his tone steady but not cruel. "I need someone to help manage my ranch. Cook, tend the house. You'll be paid fair, and your father's debt will be forgiven." Lila's breath caught. It wasn't just an offer, it was a sentence. Go with him or lose everything. Her father's eyes filled with tears. "Lila, please, do it." She looked from her father's trembling hand to Rhett's cold stare. Something deep inside her pride, fear, maybe destiny, made her straighten her back and nod. "All right," she whispered. "I'll go." Rhett tipped his hat. "Pack what you need. We leave at dawn." That night she sat by her father's bedside, holding his hand until he slept. She wept quietly, not because she was afraid of Rhett Callahan, but because she was afraid of herself. Part of her wanted to hate him, yet another part was drawn to him like a moth to flame. When dawn came, the rancher was waiting outside, mounted and ready. Without a word, he reached down and offered his hand. Lila hesitated, then took it. As he pulled her up onto the horse behind him, he murmured, almost too softly to hear, "Sometimes, Miss Walker, debts of the heart are harder to collect than debts of gold." And with that, they rode toward the rising sun, leaving behind everything she had ever known, and riding straight into the story that would rewrite both their lives forever. The Callahan Ranch was more like a kingdom than a homestead. Acres of rolling land, cattle stretching beyond the horizon, and a house so large it seemed out of place in the wild. Lila had never seen such wealth, but she soon learned that all the gold in the world couldn't buy peace. Days turned into weeks. She worked from sunrise to sunset, cleaning, cooking, helping the stable hands when she could. The ranch hands watched her curiously, the farmer's daughter who had somehow caught the boss's eye. Rhett himself was a mystery. Some days he was silent, cold as iron. Other days, she'd catch him staring across the yard at her, his jaw tight, as if fighting a battle only he could see. One night, a storm rolled in, fierce, wild, merciless. Thunder shook the walls, rain pounded the windows. Lila ran to close the shutters in the stables when lightning struck a tree nearby, setting the hay ablaze. She screamed for help, and within seconds Rhett was there, throwing on his coat and rushing into the storm. Together they fought the fire, the heat scorching their skin, the smoke blinding their eyes. When it was over, soaked and trembling, they stood side by side in the rain. Lila's hair clung to her face, her dress torn and muddy. Rhett looked at her, truly looked, and something in him broke. "You could have died in there," he said, voice rough. "So could you," she shot back. "But I didn't see you backing away." For the first time he smiled, a real smile, warm and human. "You're not afraid of me, are you?" She met his gaze. "Should I be?" He stepped closer, raindrops running down his face. "Everyone else is." "Maybe they don't see what I see," she whispered. "And what do you see, Lila Walker?" She hesitated, heart pounding. "A man who hides behind pride because he's afraid to feel again." The silence between them cracked like thunder. He reached out slowly, brushing a strand of wet hair from her cheek. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Then tell me," she challenged softly. But he didn't. Instead, he leaned in, his breath warm against her ear. "You make it real hard to forget you're here for a debt." Her eyes burned with tears. "And you make it real hard to believe that's all I'm here for." He turned away, fists clenched. But his voice trembled when he said, "You don't owe me anything anymore. Lila, you're free to leave." She stared at him, stunned. "You're forgiving the debt?" He nodded, not meeting her eyes. "All of it. But why?" "Because," he said, finally looking at her, "you paid it every day with your courage, your honesty, and your heart." Tears mixed with the rain as she stepped closer, taking his hand. "Then you're the one in debt now, Mr. Callahan." He smiled faintly. "Reckon I am." The storm faded, leaving only silence and the soft hum of the night. Rhett pulled her close, and for the first time in years, the wealthy rancher, the man who came to collect a debt, found something far more valuable than gold. He found peace and love. And as dawn broke over the valley, the two of them stood together, no longer bound by debt or pride, but by a promise neither had spoken aloud, that sometimes the hardest journeys lead us right where we belong.